Good morning, everyone. This is Cecile coming to talk to you, have a little mommy chat with y'all this morning. Today is Monday, July. Oh, what is today? Oh, the 17th. I don't know the dates anymore, y'all. All right. So yesterday I was supposed to do a video and talk about, what will your grandchildren know about you? And this is a very visceral question, right? Because it really gets down to the meat and the bones of who are you? How do you present yourself to the world, to those people you love, your children, etc.? What are they learning from you? And we know as mothers, as caretakers, as women who are moving through the world that we are being watched. Everyone is watching us, right? Our children in particular are listening to us. They are looking at us. They are carrying on the rituals and traditions that we do with them. And we are instilling in their mind, in their subconscious mind, ways of being that are going to carry with them through the rest of their lives. And once you have children, you really start to think about those things that you have learned from your parents. You really start to think about it because it's like, okay, I need to draw from a storehouse of knowledge in order to utilize information for my children, right? And or I need to develop things that I need to know in order to be able to successfully function. So what will your children say to you, to your grandchildren, about you? Or what would they say to the world? They may not want to have children, but what will they say to the world about you? How will their lives reflect who you were? And we can think about this from the way that we dress, to the way that we groom ourselves, to the way that we speak. I'm outside, y'all. The bugs are attacking me. To the way that we speak, the various rituals that we do. Like, the rituals that we do are so profound, and I'm going to do a separate video on that, because rituals bring people together, but they also help us work out mental shifts, right? Things that we need to. This is why rites of passage was so critical to indigenous tribes. That's why certain functions, certain ways of being and culture are like rites of passages, because they allow you to level up mentally. They allow you to know how to deal with a conflict or an issue. When I say ritual, I'm not talking about just like last week we did a full moon ritual where we were setting intention. Rituals are everything you do. The way that you wake up in the morning. If you wake up in the morning, you make your bed, and you go wash your face and brush your teeth and you pray, that's a ritual. But a ritual is also, if someone passes away, the way that you deal with the grief of that person dying. Those are all rituals that are going to assist you with pushing through this lifetime. It's a tool. It's a tool to understand life better, right? So that's just something to think about. So, for example, if your child is transitioning, let's say, let me give you this example. Rituals are, back in the day, I was watching a documentary, I think, about my mentor is calling me, but I got to call her back. I was watching a documentary about quilts and how African Americans in the South used to make quilts to warm themselves. Really, they used the cloths that they had to warm themselves, and but the quilts turned into a ritual of telling a story for those who got those quilts after using them, but also they started to be more of a decorative piece, right? They say that the quilts were also used in the Underground Railroad, actually, to assist in the transiting, the runaways from the south to the north, and helping them transit. That's I don't think we'll ever know everything about how they did what they did with the Underground Railroad, but that's another conversation. But how do we build rituals into our lives when our children are going through these various stages in life? How do we teach them how to navigate those new spaces of mental leveling up? Because it's really, that's what it is. They're changing. Their brain is growing. Another part of their brain is being activated, basically. And they're learning how to deal with these new scenarios, or the same scenarios, but out of a different ability mentally. So rituals are a great way for them to get to understand you and understand themselves. But let me go back to the subject. What are your children and your grandchildren going to say about you? Right? What stories are your children going to be able to tell your grandchildren or the world about you? Are they going to be able to say that you were slow to anger? Are they going to be able to say you were quick to anger? Are they going to be able to tell funny stories to you? And this is a critical question too, because I think that a lot of times parents have a hard time sitting down with their children and having conversations about things that they may have done that were mistakes. Because parenting is, there ain't no manual to parenting, right? We basically function and we run off of what it is that we know from what we were given, or what we think based on how society functions, right? And so when we start going through the process and learning, it's like we're learning and we're growing, also growing up with our children. And sometimes there are mistakes. A lot of times there are mistakes that are made. But what will you teach your child about those things so that they can change whatever it is generationally that needs to be changed, right? So we can always backtrack and say, you know what, that I did was not okay. Now that I know better, I would never have done that. And this is what was going on inside of me when I did that. And this is why I wouldn't do that. And this is how I would do something differently. That also can change the trajectory. So even if you are at a point where you feel like, your kids may not have something good to say about you, I don't know, or they still may have all good things to say about you, that doesn't mean that you still can't have conversation with your children. I think that this is critical, to have conversation about just the process of being a parent, and the process of raising a child with your child, and just being able to reflect on that, right? So we really have to think about that, and we really have to, this is why Mommy Evolve is about, self-care as well as intergenerational healing. Because if we're not self-reflective and we're not analyzing ourselves and looking at ourselves, then we are going to be what? We're stagnant, right? We're not learning lessons. We're not growing. We're not evolving. So what questions would you ask yourself today that would help you to teach your child something different about you, and teach them about themselves as well, so that they can come up with a strategy to break some generational cycles. All right. So what would your children, say about you to their children? How will your life, the way that you live, reflect in their lives for your grandchildren? Think about that. I really want you to think about that and to write some things down. Don't be afraid to write down the things that are scary too, because I could say that, probably maybe a couple of years ago, my daughter might have said, that Mommy, yells a lot, or is very stressed, always worrying. Now, I've changed myself so much that that's not something that I believe that she's going to remember in her future for her to tell her children, right? It's going to more like be, my mom was fearless and patient and kind and understanding and a problem solver, So really consider everything that I was saying and really think about that question. Really, really think about it. And everything doesn't have to be hunky-dory, of course, because your children are still going to interpret things the way that they're going to interpret things. And sometimes they have to go through that whole process of being able to understand how their own mind works, right? So you can say something to your child that is completely positive, and they can take it out of context. But there's always room and opportunity for conversations. This is why communication, being open with communication, is so critical. But I don't want to stay here too long. I like to do small blurbs and keep it moving. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, comments, put it below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Stay tuned for the many things that Mommy Evolve has coming, including on YouTube. Connect with me on YouTube. I'm on Google Plus. Send me an email. All of that. All right. Ask questions. I love to engage and have questions. So, all right. So, what will your children say about you? What will your children say about you? See y'all later. Bye.